Today's lesson is called The World's Weirdest Phobias. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff.
My name is Roger, and we've got all sorts of things to worry about in our lives. And, of course, most of us get through our days pretty easily, and very few things will scare us unless we're trying to cross the street and a big bus comes up and tries to run us over or something like that. But some of us have some problems getting through our days because we're scared of various unusual things.
Really? Do you have any phobias? Are you afraid of any weird things?
I think I'm a little afraid of heights, but I think that's natural. I wouldn't call it a phobia. It's just being a little afraid of being in high places. But other than that, I'm okay. I can go inside a cave and not have claustrophobia, or I can be outside in a wide open space and not have fear of open spaces or whatever that's called.
Are you afraid of the dark?
Not really, no. I like darkness, and I'm not afraid of the bright sunlight either. So how about you? Do you have any phobias?
Actually, I'm afraid of stray dogs. There are a lot of these stray dogs in empty lots here in Taipei City where I live, and I try to steer clear of those lots because I don't trust those dogs one bit. Am I afraid of them? I wouldn't say I've got a phobia of them, but yes, I try to keep my distance as much as possible. So maybe I've got a mini phobia of stray dogs here in Taiwan. Anyways, today we're going to focus on not weird phobias, but the world's weirdest phobias. And we'll start talking about these right after a short break.
The world's weirdest phobias. Everyone gets scared sometimes when watching a horror movie or encountering a creepy crawly, for example. Experiencing fear is normal, but sometimes these fears can get out of hand. When a fear is extreme or irrational, it's considered a phobia. You've probably heard of common phobias such as arachnophobia, the fear of spiders, or claustrophobia, the fear of small enclosed spaces. But all kinds of strange, lesser-known phobias exist. Here are some of the more unusual phobias out there.
大家好，第一部分我们看到名词 creepy crawly， 意思是讨厌的小虫子，像是 Nina screamed in fear when she saw a creepy crawly in her cup. Nina 发现她的杯子里有小虫时，吓得尖叫。再来，我们看到单字 irrational， 这个字是形容词，指不合理的、荒谬的，像是 Brandon has an irrational fear of robots. Brandon 对机器人有莫名的恐惧。另外，这个字去掉字首 ir， 就成了反义形容词 rational， 指理性的、合理的。举例来说 He made the decision based on emotion rather than rational thought. 他做此决定时是根据感受而非理性思考。接着我们看到形容词 enclosed， 指封闭的，以墙围住的。例如 A large enclosed area on the army base is where the special airplane is kept. 军事基地里的一大片封闭区域停放着特殊飞机。或是 The farmer's field is enclosed by a low stone wall. 那名农夫的田地被一面矮石墙围住。
Okay, so again, we're talking about phobias, and we're talking about unusual phobias. And we should mention that some people indeed do suffer from these phobias, and it's not because they're weak or terrible people. I think there are some explanations for these phobias. So yeah, we shouldn't make fun of these people. Try to be their friend and don't bully them. But in any case, we're talking about some unusual phobias here, okay? A phobia, of course, is a fear of something, when you're afraid of something, especially if it's something unusual. As we see in the paragraph here, yeah, we get scared of lots of things all the time. It's natural, but there are some strange phobias or weird phobias. So that's the word here, weird, which means somewhat unusual. You might describe a person as being weird. I remember in school, girls told that to me all the time. We think you're weird, so we don't want to hang around you at all.
Yes, weird, strange, and or unusual. And here we've got the superlative form of this adjective. Weird, weirder, weirdest. So we're not just talking about weird phobias. We're talking about the ones that are way out there. Super strange, super weird, the weirdest phobias. Anyways, let's go ahead and let's get started. Everyone gets scared sometimes when watching a horror movie or encountering a creepy crawly, for example. Yes, this happened to me the other day. I was sitting on the bus of all places, and a spider just fell onto my forearm.
Was it an itsy-bitsy spider?
It was not an itsy-bitsy spider. It was kind of a medium-sized spider, but still, oh gosh, it sent shivers down my spine. I got that creepy, crawly feeling from this creepy, crawly critter.
Yeah, so that does happen, of course. We're giving that as an example. Everyone gets scared sometimes. People are naturally afraid of creepy crawlies, especially if they just come up to you rather quickly, unexpectedly.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst, okay? If I see a spider on a spider web in nature, that's fine. I say, wow, that's cool, a spider. You don't see one of those every day in the city. But if it just comes out of nowhere, like you're sitting on the bus and seriously, it just falls out of the sky onto your arm, that can creep you out. Ooh. Anyways, yes, experiencing fear, that's normal. But sometimes these fears can get out of hand. Yes, sometimes that fear can translate or escalate, I should say, into something that's much bigger. It can translate into anxiety or even into panic. And yes, when you can't control that fear anymore, you can say that that fear is now out of hand. Now, usually people, when they feel anxiety, they don't feel good. They feel terrible, but they can usually control that anxiety to a certain extent. But when you start to panic, that means you can no longer control your fears or your feelings anymore. Things have gotten out of hand. They have gotten out of control.
Exactly. So, yeah, they just get kind of extreme there. They get kind of ridiculous, and it's very difficult to control these kinds of situations. So, let's talk about this fear here. When a fear or phobia is extreme or irrational, well, it's considered a phobia. If something's irrational, it just means it's just not logical. It's a fear that seems ridiculous. Why would you be afraid of clowns, for example? They're funny, they're cute, but some people actually are afraid of clowns.
There you go. Now let's move on. The next sentence says, you've probably heard of common phobias such as arachnophobia, the fear of spiders, or claustrophobia, the fear of small enclosed spaces. And yes, I've heard that some people have a really hard time going to the hospital and taking an MRI or a CT scan because of claustrophobia. If you want to take a CT scan or an MRI, they do have to put you into a small tube for a small period of time, and that can freak some people out. That's what claustrophobia is, that fear of small enclosed spaces.
I guess I'm not claustrophobic because I've had those kinds of exams before, and I felt perfectly fine, but I can see how some people might be very afraid of a situation like that, and I'm sure the doctors are very aware of that as well, and they'll try to help you as much as they can. So if something is enclosed, that means it's a space that doesn't have any exit, okay? Basically, you're stuck inside there. It's closed off on all sides. So, yeah, if you're in a situation like that, if you're in an MRI tube or something, yes, it will feel enclosed. It will feel like you can't escape, and I can understand why you'd be afraid of that.
Yeah, so I've heard of arachnophobia, claustrophobia, I've heard of agoraphobia, but all kinds of strange, lesser-known phobias exist. Here are some of the more unusual phobias out there, and we'll be learning about them right after this.
Ablophobia, the fear of bathing. Bathing is a normal and even enjoyable part of most people's day. However, those who suffer from a bathing phobia can't abide the thought of washing themselves. Unfortunately, a lack of bathing can cause body odor, which can then lead to social problems. This fear may seem ridiculous, but it's not completely unjustified. It's usually caused by a traumatic experience with bathing or water during one's juvenile years.
第二部分我们看到单字 abide 这个字是动词，指忍受、容忍，常搭配否定用法，像是 I refuse to abide the decision that was made by my boss, so I will leave the company. 我拒绝忍受我老板的决定，因此我会离开公司，或是I can't abide Ralph because he tells too many lies. 我无法容忍 Ralph， 因为他说太多谎。另外，除了上面的意思，这个字还可以指遵守、忠于某事物，像是 abide by 就表示遵照、遵守。例如 Veronica always abides by the rules of the road when driving. Veronica 开车时总是会遵守道路规则。或是 If you abide by what I say, I will teach you what I know. 如果你遵照我所说的，我会教你我所知道的。再来，我们看到形容词 unjustified， 指无正当理由的、无法辩解的，像是 The senator insisted that the accusations against him were unjustified. 那名参议员坚称针对他的指控没有正当理由。另外，这个字去掉字首 un， 就成了反义形容词 justified， 指有正当理由的、情有可原的。举例来说，The team has done so well, I believe bonuses are justified. 该团队表现优秀，获得奖金天经地义。再来，我们看到单字 traumatic， 这个字是形容词，指创伤性的、痛苦的，像是 The car accident was the most traumatic event in Stuart's life. 那场车祸是 Stuart 生命中最痛苦的事件。另外，除了上面的意思，这个字还可以指外伤的。我们可以说Traumatic injuries are treated in a hospital's emergency department. 外伤会在医院的急诊室里治疗。
Okay, the first unusual phobia that we're going to discuss now is one called ablophobia. Is about the fear of bathing. You're actually afraid of taking a shower or taking a bath.
Bathing, everyone, is a normal and even enjoyable part of most people's day. Yes, I love taking a nice hot shower. However, those who suffer from a bathing phobia can't abide the thought of washing themselves. They can't handle it. They can't take it. They can't abide this thought. Just the thought of them washing themselves freaks them out. They can't take it. They have a real phobia when it comes to even thinking about bathing.
Right, abide here usually is combined with the preposition by, to abide by something. If you work for this company, you need to abide by the rules. You need to recognize them and you need to follow the rules. But here, abide does not have the preposition by. You're abiding the thought, but you can't abide the thought. It just means you can't bear that thought. You just can't accept it. If you think about that thing, it's just going to make you really, really crazy. I can't imagine taking a bath. It's so scary.
And I feel bad for these people. Just the thought of taking a bath kind of drives them a little bit nuts. And unfortunately, a lack of bathing can also cause body odor, which can then lead to social problems. So not only do these people freak out when they think about bathing, their lack of bathing, well, can lead to social problems because they stink, because they don't take baths, they have a body odor. By the way, when we're talking about odors, we're talking about foul smells, things that smell bad, things that stink. Yes, body odor. That's a situation where you smell bad. You have smelly feet, smelly armpits. Your whole body might smell bad.
Yep, sometimes that is shortened to BO. Ooh, you've got BO. You need to take a shower right now. No one will want to hang around with you. And this fear may seem ridiculous. It may seem silly. It may be something that you think is funny, but it's not completely unjustified. In other words, it is kind of justified. Yes, these people are scared of bathing for a good reason, okay? It's usually caused by a traumatic experience with bathing or water during one's juvenile years, or juvenile years. I think you can probably pronounce it either way. We've got juvenile here in our pronunciation guide, but when I was a kid, we pronounced it juvenile, okay? Especially if parents thought you were a naughty boy, they would say, oh, you are a juvenile delinquent.
Oh, man, that's not good. Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a break. But when we come back, we'll be wrapping up part 1 of our article on the weirdest phobias in the world.
Omphalophobia, the fear of belly buttons. People with this phobia are terrified of seeing or touching belly buttons, even their own. Children may be afraid of their belly button unraveling, and adult sufferers often try to avoid coming into contact with belly buttons altogether. Thus, they usually stay away from beaches or pools where belly buttons are on show.
最后第3部分，我们看到动词 unravel 指解开、拆散、结、线团等，像是 This clump of Christmas lights is going to be a pain to unravel。将这坨纠结成团的圣诞灯泡拆开来会是一件苦差事。另外，除了上面的意思，这个字还可以指崩解。例如 The company started to unravel after its CEO resigned。那家公司在执行长辞职后开始分崩离析。
Okay, the next phobia we're going to talk about is one called omphalophobia, and that is the fear of belly buttons, which is that kind of hole in your stomach there, 肚脐, I think you say in Chinese. And people with this phobia are terrified of seeing or touching belly buttons, even their own. If you're terrified of something, you are very, very scared of something.
Yes, that's what it means to be terrified of something. You don't want to see that thing because it is going to horrify you or make you really, really scared. Now, children may be afraid of their belly button unraveling, and adult sufferers often try to avoid coming into contact with belly buttons altogether. Thus, they usually stay away from beaches or pools where belly buttons are on show, or where they can usually see belly buttons because people are in bathing suits, they're bathing in the ocean or in the pool and stuff like that. So, wow, I never knew that this existed. And here it says that children with this particular phobia may be afraid of their belly button unraveling or coming apart. How interesting.
Yeah, like the threads of your sweater. I have an old sweater, but I can't wear it anymore because it is unraveling. It's coming apart. And that's what children may be afraid of. And of course, adults may be afraid of belly buttons, and they avoid coming into contact with belly buttons. If you come into contact with something, you get close to it and you touch it. And they want to avoid them altogether. Thus, they usually stay away from beaches or pools where belly buttons are on show. If something's on show, that means it's displayed, you can see it, and I can understand if you're afraid of belly buttons, you would not go to the beach.
Okay, with that, today's lesson is now in the books, and it's time for you guys to hear from the Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分介绍到洗澡恐惧症，他写到说Those who suffer from a bathingphobia can't abide the thought of washing themselves. 好，那这边我们来学一个句型，叫做 those who 加动词，是表达凡是怎么样怎么样的人，那些怎么样怎么样的人。其中的 those 指的就是 those people 那些人，那后面再接 who 引导的关系子句来修饰这个先行词 those， 就可以表达说那些怎么样怎么样的人，凡是怎么样怎么样的人。好，特别注意这个关系子句里面的动词要用复数型哦，像我们文中写到说 those who suffer from a bathingphobia 就是表达那些患有洗澡恐惧症的人。你也可以说 those who were born in December 就是表达凡是12月出生的人，所以这边特别注意它的动词，我们是用 those who were born 而不是 was born。 好，那我们来造一个例句Speed walking is a great form of exercise for those who just want to stay fit. 对于那些只想要保持健康的人来说，快走是一种很棒的运动。好，那补充一下 those who 加动词其实可以简化成 those 加上现在分词 VING 或者是过去分词 PP， 也就是说它把关系代名词 who 省略了，然后再把后方动词改成分词。这个动词如果是主动就可以改成现在分词，被动就可以改成过去分词了。像我们在第二天的课文会介绍到黄色恐惧症，课文有写到说Those suffering from this phobia are afraid of all things yellow. 其中的 those suffering from this phobia 就是从 those who suffer from this phobia 简化而来，来表达说那些患有这个恐惧症的人。好，那么课文接着写到说，洗澡恐惧症通常是少年时期跟洗澡或水有关的创伤经验所造成的。好，课文用到 juvenile 这个单字，它的字根JUVEN 表示年轻，那么 ILE 是用来表达具有什么样特质的，合在一起 juvenile 它可以当名词来指幼年、少年，也可以当形容词来形容它是年少的、幼稚的。好，那我们顺便来介绍 ILE 这个字尾哦。ILE 当形容词字尾的时候，它是表达具有某种特质能力或是倾向。那我们来看几个单字例子。第一个 fragile F-R-A-G-I-L-E 好，它的字根 F-R-A-G 表示断裂，那么 I-L-E 表示倾向于，那么有断裂的倾向应该很容易联想到 fragile 它是形容这个脆弱的、易碎的、易损坏的，也可以用来形容人是虚弱的。好，第二个补充的是 hostile H-O-S-T-I-L-E 那它的字根 H-O-S-T 是源自于拉丁文有敌人的意思，字尾 I-L-E 表示倾向于，所以合在一起 hostile 它就是形容有敌意的、不友善的。第三个补充的是 mobile M-O-B-I-L-E 它的字根 M-O-B 表示移动， I-L-E 表示易于怎么样怎么样，容易怎么样的，那合在一起 mobile 就是形容易于移动的、可移动的或是活动的、行动的。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Weird. I met a really weird guy at Dudley's party last night. Enclosed. Ryan bought a house with an enclosed backyard. Abide. Jessica can't abide watching horror movies. Odor. An unpleasant odor was coming from the backseat of the car. Ridiculous. Shirley thought her boyfriend looked ridiculous in his tight leather pants. Unjustified.Your criticism of the movie is entirely unjustified. Juvenile. Juvenile birds cannot fly, so they must rely on their parents for food. Terrify. Travis terrified his younger sister by dressing as a monster and hiding under her bed.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end. and I sure hope you guys enjoyed reading and learning along with us. I am Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.